I'm Tim McKirdy.
And I'm Sother Teague.
And this is Sourced, a weekly show about cooking with booze
and drinking with food.
Sother, big old steaming bowl of Moules Marinière. Can you hear it clacking?
Yeah, I love that sound. The mussels rattling around in the pot as they open up. Great.
Absolute classic of a dish here. Perfect for Sourced. For those uninitiated, for those who don't know, what are we talking about here? Marinière specifically.
I mean, turns out that it's one of the national dishes of France. And Moules Marinière just means mussels in the style of the mariner or the sailor. It's also a reference to the striped shirts that the French sailors wore. What's that called again?
The Breton, I believe.
The Breton stripes, yes.
Yes.
I think it's an incredibly simple dish that is packed with flavor and also is super easy to make.
Mm-hmm. Mussels, wine, shallots, garlic, butter. Essentially, that's it.
Essentially, a couple of herbs and we're good to go.
A couple of herbs and we're good to go. Fun fact about that. I don't know whether this is true, but you mentioned one of the national dishes of France. I read during prep that it's the second favorite dish in France. What do you think the first is?
Second favorite dish. I'm really torn. I want to say something as simple as an omelet, but then I want to say something like steak frites.
No, it's something, think more about, in a sense, French pride, a very quintessentially French, classical French dish.
Dish? I mean, the things that come to mind are like croissant, baguette, pâté en croûte. I'm lost.
Duck à l'orange.
Duck à l'orange.
I mean, I don't know where they're getting this. I don't know where they're getting these statistics from, but
that's a future episode.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be coming up for us here on Sourced. As we always like to start the episodes and the discussion, personal or professional experiences with Moules Marinière for yourself?
I don't know that I've ever worked anywhere where we made specifically Moules Marinière, but we've certainly made many, many different mussel preparations that are all quite similar in build and structure, but with maybe different flavors, lemongrass and, ginger and things like that to give it the flavor of wherever it was that I was working. So professionally, not so much. Personally, when we were doing prep just recently, I was talking about how it shocks me how easy this dish is to make, how quickly it can be put together, and how infrequently I make it at home, even though if I see it on a menu, I'm pretty tempted to order it if I don't order. Like, I'll either order it or I'll sit there thinking, man, I should have ordered it.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one as well. Whenever I worked in kitchens, mussels was more of an ingredient that we would use, right? It would be incorporated into different fish dishes, classically like a bouillabaisse or things like that. But it was never really something that we ever offered on the menu. But yeah, I just think another thing about this dish is it's so easy to prepare. It's probably not something that you want to order if you're out on a first or second date.
Yeah.
If you're at a restaurant.
Well, this definitely categorizes itself as country French cuisine, right? Which I think the characteristics there are, super casual, often something you're eating literally with your hands. So I think, not a first date for sure, but like a third or fourth date where you're going to have someone over and you're going to cook it with and for them. This is a super fun thing to do.
I'm with you on that one as well. And I think it's one of those ones as well that over delivers on sort of shock value or wow factor for the amount of effort that goes into it.
Yeah, it's always beautiful when it comes out because it looks inviting and abundant, and there's like steam wafting off it. There's plenty of aromas. I love it when they bring it out with the secondary bowl on top so they can flip that bowl over and you can use that as your shell bowl. But in doing that, you get this crazy burst of aroma, this plume of steam coming out. Like, it's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really do love the sort of look of this. Also, I forget the name of it, and there might be one or two more actually. But there's a restaurant in New York City specifically. I think it's in the Upper East Side now, but there used to be one in the West Village, I think. They have 20 different mussels dishes on the menu.
Ooh, let's go.
1.5 to 2 tons of mussels they get through a week.
Wow.
I went there for my birthday once.
That's a lot of mussels.
And the aromas were intense.
Yeah, I bet. And also, I think that speaks to the mussels as well, though, to the mussels specifically, not necessarily the dish specifically. but they are a great blank canvas. Like in this case, this is the chicken of the sea, right? Not tuna, but this, because you can go in any direction you want. And I think that's a great asset to have in the kitchen. Anything that can be malleable into any direction you want to go, I think that's a great thing to have.
Simple dish, but then, you do really want to be finding that balance. And yeah, to your point, because it takes on flavors of things, it's quite delicate in some respects.
Oh, I agree. I mean, it's seafood. It's a shellfish, so I would say they're very delicate. But at the same time, again, they're pretty, they taste of the sea. Right, very sort of briny, but yet they have a creamy quality as well. So they're kind of mouth coating as you're eating them. They taste, obviously a bit salty and fresh. There's a very fresh flavor about them. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love them. I'm stoked that we're going to talk about them today.
So looking at origins, right, starting in the beginning, where can we trace this back to? It's one of those things it's so simple that, it's difficult to believe that any one region or person came up with it, right? There are sort of two conflicting stories, though, when it comes to a little bit more about how mussels are farmed, right? So actually, do you want to get into sort of what mussels are as an organism first, right? They're bivalves, right?
Yep.
But how do we grow these things?
I mean, I've never been to a mussel farm, but I've been to oyster farms, and it's likely quite similar. The mussel themselves, they have what's called a beard, and the technical name. I can't ever pull it up.
Yes, I'll find that shortly.
Okay, you have it in your notes then. I thought you knew it. But the beard is this little stringy appendage that sticks out of the shell, and it attaches to things like ropes or chunks of wood or even rock surfaces. And once we sort of figured out how they were doing that, we say, okay, let's string some ropes between some posts, and they'll just start naturally growing on there when they spat the water. And then you just go back out there and harvest them once they're at sort of market size.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, wild mussels, they do exist. You can buy them. You can also harvest them yourselves, but you have to be a little bit more careful, right? Because of the water source that they are in.
Of course, yeah. I was out in Vancouver, Washington a little over a year ago, and we got up with the early morning tide being out, and we went out with a 5-gallon bucket and some waders on, and we came back with a 5-gallon bucket of little free mussels.
And in that sense, they will just sort of latch onto, or I forget what exactly it is. You'll see that on the video, what I'm doing here, but more like rocks and things like that. Yeah.
This was a rock surface. These were just totally 100% wild, and plentiful. The crazy part is they're plentiful because they reproduce and grow pretty quickly. So farming these things is quite easy, and that also leads to the fact that the expense on these is quite low. So it's not just which is strange to think, right? Typically, when we think of things from the sea, and as I just said, something that would be one of France's national dishes, you'd think, wow, this must probably be pretty expensive. They're not. Mm-hmm. Like Julia Child, I think you mentioned, called them poor man's oysters, which I think is a strange way to put it, because you don't eat these raw, but I get the meaning that she was kind of driving, is that they're beautiful, bountiful, fresh seafood that is inexpensive.
And her, and we'll get into Julia a little bit more later, and Jack Papin, and they have done an episode, it's available there on YouTube, of shellfish, and it was the two of them, and mussels comes up in that, and I think that's where the quote comes from on that one there. Yeah, so maybe it was just comparing and contrasting there.
Sure.
To go back to those sort of harvesting mussels and growing them, right? Sort of, rather than going for the wild versions, the advantage you get from sort of growing them on those planks, or as they're known technically, bouchots. They are not then sitting on the ground and sort of getting too much sand and dirt and stuff into them.
Right.
Of course, you will get that, and we're going to get into that later when it comes to cleaning them.
Sure.
On that, though, on the origins and on the origins or etymology of that word bouchot. So some folks, according to legend, like to trace that whole idea and that discovery back to someone called Patrick Walton in the 13th century. He was either Irish or Scottish, depending on who you believe. He was shipwrecked, I believe, somewhere off the coast of France. He planted wooden stakes to stretch nets between for catching seabirds.
He was trying to catch birds?
Yes. And instead, mussels colonized the poles. They grew fat and clean, and he was able to survive off of them. He called these steaks Bouchots, coming from the Celtic or Gaelic Bouchot. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct, but it's Boutchoat, meaning wooden fence.
All right. So this Celtic guy built a fence in the water to catch birds.
And ended up growing oysters.
Growing mussels, yeah.
Mussels. I think there's going to be a bunch of times in this episode where I say oysters when I mean mussels, so please do bear with me on that. There is a counterclaim. Other regions said they've been doing that for centuries, but regardless.
I think a lot of foods that we just literally can walk out into the world and find are collective subconscious, people just, it's almost like how alcohol was discovered, right? It's just some fruit that that had rotted and fermented. So I think there's no claim to who found mussels, who found, I don't know, chicken.
What came first?
Yeah, it was definitely the egg.
I've been meaning to get your take on that.
No further discussion is required. It was the egg. The egg was first.
I think it's also worth noting, though, beyond the sort of that technique, Moules Marinière as a dish is beloved across that sort of northern Europe, right? From the northwest of France all the way through to Belgium, The Hague, that they eat a ton. I think it's something like 20 to 30,000 tons of mussels a year in Belgium.
I mean, that's incredible. And again, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that, obviously culturally, but I mean, globally, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that they are sort of universally delicious and easy to eat because they'll adapt to any cuisine, and they're very inexpensive.
Yeah.
Like I've been kicking myself since we've been doing the research for this episode because I don't think I employ them as often as I should, given that they're so readily available and inexpensive.
Yeah. No.
And delicious. Like you're rarely going to hit the trifecta of like, I can always get it, it doesn't cost much, and it's delicious. Like maybe you get two of those at a time, but like, you know what I mean?
Well, this was something I was going to say for ingredients, but we might as well bring it up now. The R rule when it comes to shellfish. You say you can get it any time, but the best months would be any month with R in the name.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
So that myth was pretty much dispelled. I grew up on the Gulf Coast.
Okay.
That's right, the Gulf Coast, Gulf of Mexico. I grew up on the Gulf of Mexico, and that was prevalent when I was young. But I think that myth has over time been dispelled because of refrigeration, right? When we were talking about, so like we have to, that myth I think largely attaches itself to oysters specifically, and you can look back into any history book and see that oysters were very highly consumed when America was young. When we didn't have refrigeration or trucks, we had horses drawing carriages, and you'd be in the middle of the country eating lots of oysters. Well, how'd they get there, and how much temperature damage did they suffer, and how much more of that damage did they suffer in months without an R, which are the summer, right? So I think we can dispel that. Like mussels are available all the time.
Okay, so
are oysters.
Discard both of those. if you have been subscribing to that R myth,
get rid of it.
You mentioned earlier. This is a country dish or staple, right? This isn't an haute cuisine. We do like to ask, is this a prince's or a pauper's dish? So we're saying definitively a pauper's dish.
We ask ourselves this question for the dishes that we look at, and I think that we're going to find as we go that too many of them are both. It's a pauper's dish because it's cheap, it's plentiful, it's easy to do. It's a dish that can be prepared with next to nothing. And it's a prince's dish because it's one of the top 5 most consumed dishes in France. Not top 5. It's a prince's dish because it's a
national staple.
A national staple of France. So I think it's very difficult to call it one or the other. I think we'll have other dishes that tell us pretty clearly, but again, it wouldn't have exalted itself to the level that it has if it wasn't made for the upper echelon.
this is one of those ones as well where you don't want to go too far in the weeds, but like the whole idea and concept of a restaurant doesn't exist until sort of it's a relatively modern invention, right? It's post-revolution in France, and I think by the 19th century, this is something that was sort of being widely consumed in restaurants. And by the 20th century, it's a bistro classic, right? And I think that's
absolutely. I was going to bring that up too, right? Like I will say this in the Prince versus Pauper thing, and I've worked at many very fancy restaurants. I've been to many very fancy restaurants, also in Europe and in France. And I would say, even though it's considered to be one of France's national dishes, you don't find it very often in the nicer restaurants. Mm-hmm. You find it in the bistros.
Yeah,
almost ubiquitously. Like any bistro you go in is going to have it. Rare a fine dining restaurant, haute cuisine, etc., which I think is odd.
I think it's apt just because I don't want to see too many fancy techniques being applied to this. This is a dish, all dishes are, but this is a dish that really leans into ingredients, simple techniques, but refinement. I don't want molecular gastronomy when it comes to my Moules Marinière.
All right.
Not that all cuisine is that, right? But
I agree. It's almost like it's not you're not playing to your strength if you're running a fine dining restaurant and serving Moules Marinière. Although the opposite could be argued as well. You go to many fine dining restaurants in France that have, for dinner an omelet, a beautiful, no browning, glossy, yellow, shiny omelet of simple cheese and herbs, right? It's just proving to you that the chef can master those techniques that we consider simple because everyone does them. That doesn't mean that everyone does them well. Yeah?
Yeah.
Anybody can make an omelet. Yeah, can anyone make an omelet well? Right.
We've spoken about it before on this show, but like when it comes to culinary school, one of the things that we had as a test was turning mushrooms. But there was also the omelet test, and that was always a good one. And as you said, no color, still liquid in the middle. Beautiful. I think that's a great introduction to Moules Marinière. I think that's everything the intro one needs to know. A little bit longer than an elevator pitch, but I think that's everything folks need to know about Moules Marinière. So we're going to take a quick break now, and then we're going to get back into move on into the next section of the show.
Excellent. Let's do it.
Today's episode of Sourced is brought to you by Atheris Spirits. If you've been building out your Amaro shelf, the kind of bottles you reach for when you want something bitter, layered, complex, and aromatic, let me point you to Akhenaten, one of the standout releases in the Atheris Spirits lineup. This is Atheris' premium Amaro, inspired by the visionary Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten and by Philip Glass's opera of the same name. It's built from a deep botanical blend, over 40 carefully curated spices, barks, roots, resins, dried fruits, and nuts. So it's the kind of Amaro that continues to unfold in the glass and on your palate. Even with that context in mind, I was blown away by this Amaro's wide spectrum of flavors. Think warm spices like cumin and coriander, herbal lift from basil and peppermint, and deeper notes from cedar, eucalyptus, and myrrh that give it real structure. Like the rest of the Atheris collection, Akhenaten is bottled at 38% ABV. And the best part is, it's available online for delivery in most states today. Atheris Spirits, inspired by ancient heritage, foraged botanicals, and immersive flavor experiences. Head to atherisspirits.com, that's ATHERAS spirits.com, to learn more today. All right, and we're back, and Sother, fun one for us as always. Kicking off the second part of the show here today, what do Julia, Jack, and other culinary luminaries have to say about Moules Marinière?
I didn't find anything. I didn't specifically look for anything from Julia. I did look up Jacques, as I mentioned earlier, and he didn't have anything like insightful or beyond, frankly, what we're saying. He just approached it as if though it was just an everyday commonality for him.
Yeah.
Which weirdly also, in no real words, does speak to the dish, right? And then I also checked out a guy that I like to follow. His name is Adam Byatt, B-Y-A-T-T. I'm probably butchering that pronunciation. Byatt? I don't know. A great chef I've been following for a while. And he just talked about how sort of what we've been talking about as well, how comforting it is, what a sort of warming dish it is. Like just that again, he alluded to that big steaming bowl.
Yeah.
Like just this really welcoming, inviting, salivary inducing. Even when I talk about it, my mouth starts to water. So I think the general consensus that I get, and you probably got some more insights, is that this is a very comfort dish.
That leads to an interesting question. What is the best season to eat this dish?
I find that I love seafood the most in the warmer months, but maybe that's just because I grew up on the Gulf of Mexico. However, I think when I talk about this dish, even just now, I look back, based on you asking this question, I look back at everything I just said, and it's got this very stew, warming, comforting. I'm gonna, eat the broth out of the bottom with a big spoon. It's got this very winter vibe. Like I could see snow being on the ground while I'm eating Moules Marinière.
Well, I mentioned that I went to that exclusive mussels restaurant for my birthday. My birthday, of course, for the folks listening, is in November, as is your own as well.
That's right.
It's not the same day. There was some there was some confusion recently on that story for a different day. Yeah, I had down here, though, Julia Child, as we mentioned earlier, she described them as poor man's oysters. Jack Papan, again, nothing too quotable on it, although one of the things that I thought made his preparation unique and I really liked was the use of herbe de Provence.
Okay.
Which is going to be different than maybe the classic and the staple that we'll get into in a bit.
Sure. Yeah, it is different.
And then a fun one for us here. So there's a whole cream debate between folks. Do you add cream or not to finish the sauce? People get quite heated about this. What's your thoughts on that?
Ooh, is there a heated debate? I knew there was a little bit of a debate. I didn't know it was heated. It's like putting peas in your carbonara. Oh my gosh.
Carrots in your bourguignon.
That gets people upset. I didn't know there was a heated debate, and I would gladly eat them either way, but I prefer no cream. I prefer to finish the process with a heavy mounting of butter. We're going to start the process with butter and oil. We're going to finish the process with mounting with butter and herbs to get some glossiness and that just more buttery feeling. And the reason I think I feel that way is I would put it in the camp of eating lobster or crab legs or other seafoods that we dunk in butter, right? I'm just looking for that butteriness. I'm not necessarily looking for that creaminess. Now I know we can argue that clams are in clam chowder, New England style, which has plenty of cream in it. And I'm not saying I'm going to say get your mussels out of here if they've got cream in them, but I'm going to say I would prefer that more like just buttery nature.
Yeah. Jack Papan was quite strict about this, or did make a clear distinction. For him, Moules Marinière was no cream, and then Moules Poulette was with cream and thickener.
Oh, did he mention what kind of thickener?
I don't have that in my notes here.
Right.
I would imagine probably a roux.
Yeah.
Classically, right? Butter and...
He uses so many starches, though. I could see him just being like, whip in some potato starch and it'll thicken immediately. I have that memory in my head. He always says that. It thickens immediately.
It feels like a cheat to me.
Yeah, me too.
I never really like that. And then it starts to lean into some of the quite addictive but kind of not great sweet and sour sauces you might have in like a Chinese takeaway or something like that.
Right, rice flour thickened or cornstarch thickened.
Cornstarch, it's not.
Which are great at the time, but then later if you want to have the sauce reheat or something, the texture becomes a little bit wonky.
Mm-hmm. Among the other luminaries and culinary icons, Auguste Escoffier.
Oh.
I saw him getting some stick online for this, for his version of the dish. Some folks in particular. So what he liked to do was he included a velouté sauce in his. So he was adding fish stock and then something to thicken it. But he cooked, if I'm remembering correctly from his preparation, he cooks the mussels first and then spends a bunch of time finishing and correcting his sauce, at which point you have to imagine the mussels have gone cold or rubbery if you're keeping them under like a heat lamp or whatever.
Did they have heat lamps back then? A bunch of guys with candles?
Well, they're keeping it warm somewhere, aren't they?
We hope. We hope. I'm imagining a lot of food was eaten at room temperature or colder in those days.
Not in Escoffier. That's why he invented the brigade.
That's right.
Just add more people in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But back to that great cream debate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Belgians say absolutely no cream, period.
And they stake a little bit of claim on this dish because they added the thing that goes with the dish the most, and we'll talk about that. But like moule frites, right? Mussels and fries. That's the Belgian way, and so I guess they at least have some say in the matter because they've carved out a very niche part of the dish.
Yeah.
Or the dish's service, at least.
Other names for that preparation would be moule à la crème. But then again, some folks, Normandy, apparently, regionally, they might add up to 2 tablespoons for richness. I think you can get away with that, right? That's not a cream sauce. It's just a little bit of bit of richness.
My guy, Bayat, who I just spoke about, he finished his with a big knob of, heaping spoonful, that's a knob, of creme fraiche. You know, I could see that. It's going to bring some tartness, and we associate creme fraiche with seafood. You know, creme fraiche with your caviar. Creme fraiche might get folded into the Rockefeller that you put on top of your oysters and bake them. So I can see it. I can totally see it. Again, I'm not going to say no to it, but I think for me, I just want that sort of like clean, buttery wine. So it's basically you're making a beurre blanc.
Yeah.
You're making a white wine beurre blanc with beurre blanc, white butter, white wine, butter, beurre blanc. With shallots and these herbs, and then the mussels open up and they spill their liquid into this, and it's usually going to be about double. You know, when we talk about the recipe, like the quantity of liquid that comes out of the mussels is about equal to the quantity of liquid that you've added to the pan in the first place. So I just don't know that that I want to get too far away from this like more beurre blanc flavored with mussel liqueur. I don't want to get too far away from that. But again, I'm not going to say no.
Yeah.
You know?
I think as well, that brings up something that's important and that Julia Child stresses when it comes to the preparation of this dish is like you want to build all of those elements of flavor and the sauce before you start cooking the mussels, unlike Escoffier, because yes, you are going to get that release of liquid and you don't want to be having to spend a couple of minutes reducing a sauce after the mussels are ready to go, right? So you'd get it to that consistency first and then finish Monty au Beurre, and we'll get into that later with the preparation. So that has been what the culinary luminaries have to say about this dish, or what people are saying about their preparations. Let's head into non-negotiables.
Today's non-negotiables are brought to you by Palomo Mezcal. Built on balance, Palomo keeps the smoke lighter than most mezcal and pushes the proof a notch higher. Sip it neat or let your cocktails sing with cooked agave and bright citrus.
Sother, what defines this dish? What, if you don't have it, are you saying that's not a proper or quintessential Moules Marinière?
Again, I know this is a thing we talk about on each episode, and this one I feel like is a little bit, looser, or maybe it's the opposite. It's tighter in that it only has a few ingredients, and I think they're all non-negotiable.
Yeah.
We have the mussels themselves, right? We're going to use Prince Edward Islands probably instead of the New Zealand green lips, which are really only your 2 commercial options. We're going to have butter, shallot, garlic, and then we're going to go in with some thyme, parsley, and of course, white wine.
That's it. Yeah.
I mean, that's it.
And I think, not that I know how you would do otherwise, but I think the other thing is like the way that the cooking technique itself is a non-negotiable, right? Like, you know, steaming it, open it, doing it that way. If you're not doing this in one pot, essentially. And
there's some technique points that we'll mark out so that we come out with the best possible result. But yeah, the process has got to be pretty much the same across the board, and those ingredients they're all non-negotiable. Mm-hmm. Right? You're missing any one of those, and you miss the mark. Could we make this without the garlic? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Could we make it without shallots and just garlic? Yeah. But it's not going to be where it needs to be.
Totally. It is a negotiable, but I would like to nudge it in the direction of non-negotiables by saying, I want to be wearing one of those striped Breton shirts while I'm eating this.
Yeah, you wear the shirt, I'll get you a beret.
You know, I used to have a bunch of those, and that was a staple in my wardrobe, and I haven't had one for years, so maybe we
got to get back into it. We'll get us both one, and we'll take pictures of ourselves in the kitchen making mussels for dinner. Or for lunch. This is a great lunch dish.
Good point. I would like you to bring up your thing because I forget what it's called, but when it comes to actually eating this dish, to your point, it's a great lunch dish because it doesn't fill you up too much because it's quite an effort to eat. What is that called again?
Response cost. Yeah, we talked about that. So response cost, when we're talking about eating, is the amount of time it takes you to get something to the position where you can just eat it versus having something that's already at that position when you sit down. So the peanuts are a great example. If there's a bowl of shelled peanuts on the table, you will consume so many of them sort of mindlessly, taking on calories and all that stuff. And whereas if they were in the shell, it takes you long enough to open them, and your brain goes through what's called response cost, and then you don't eat as many, right? Because when they're just there to eat, you're eating them faster than your brain says, I think I'm full, right? But if you're eating them slowly, your brain can go, yeah, I'm full now, stop, right? Because your brain and your stomach communicate, but not well.
That's also why, and especially if you're looking to eat a little bit more healthy, or if you want your portions to be more controlled, how much you eat to be controlled by your stomach rather than your eyes.
Yeah.
That's why it's a terrible idea to eat if you have the TV on, or you're on your phone, or you're not drinking lots of water at the same time as well, because you're just eating and you're just going to plow through everything until you get to the bottom of that bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you're right. I never even thought about the distraction while you're eating. Yeah, because you just don't pay attention to what you're doing.
You're completely zoned out of how you're feeling. Let's get into eating these actually, because it is a fun part of it. It's again, it's not a non-negotiable, but it's a part of the ritual of Moules Marinière. Talk us through how you would go about that.
Oh, I eat them? Oh man. Okay, so I'm not probably. This is exactly how I eat them. And we'll talk about how we should serve them. That's going to be different. But how I eat them, I'm going to spot on the top. I'm not going to go digging around and find the exact smallest one, but I'm going to find the smallest mussel that's on the top. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to pop the meat out and eat it. And then I'm going to use that small shell as a little pincher, right? That's my tiny tongs. And that way I can just grab each shell by the very edge with my non-dominant hand, and I can go in there and pluck out and eat them directly from my little tongs.
Yeah.
So this guy got saved to be my, tongs for the whole rest of the meal. And I'm not alone in this. Like, I've seen many people do this. Many chefs talk about this. It's just a very convenient and easy way to eat them. But there is a thing that I do that I've never seen anyone else do. And every time I'm with someone and I do it, they're blown away. Every time I'm at a restaurant and they come to clear away my plate of shells, they stop and make mention of it. I've had literally people walk by my table who are just customers and be like, what the hell are you doing? So once you've got the shell emptied and spread open like butterfly wings, then the next shell you insert into that one, and then you continue to do that. And you don't have to eat them in any order; they'll fit together no matter what. They're like Legos. And what you end up with in the end, it starts to curve, and the more you eat, the more curved it becomes, right? But what you end up with is this sort of looks like a crazy chevron of rhinoceros horn, and it's just one long thing. Instead of this pile of cacophonous shells, you just have this one long sort of bone-looking thing, and it literally gets mentioned every single time I eat mussels.
It sounds mightily impressive, but it does stray into the territory of being told not to play with your food when you were growing up. But no, this is.
But if I'm already pinching with the pinchers, I'm already playing with the food to some degree, so I pluck that one out and I eat it. Then it's already in my hand, so I just slide it into the next one, and you just keep going, and they click together, and and weirdly it's oddly beautiful. Thanks to Palomo Mezcal for presenting today's non-negotiables. Lighter smoke, higher proof, all agave. Head to the show notes to learn more about Palomo Mezcal today.
Today's episode of Sourced is brought to you by Atheris Spirits. If you've been building out your Amaro shelf, the kind of bottles you reach for when you want something bitter, layered, complex, and aromatic, let me point you to Akhenaten, one of the standout releases in the Atheris Spirits lineup. This is Atheris' premium Amaro, inspired by the visionary Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten and by Philip Glass's opera of the same name. It's built from a deep botanical blend, over 40 carefully curated spices, barks, roots, resins, dried fruits, and nuts. So it's the kind of Amaro that continues to unfold in the glass and on your palate. Even with that context in mind, I was blown away by this Amaro's wide spectrum of flavors. Think warm spices like cumin and coriander, herbal lift from basil and peppermint, and deeper notes from cedar, eucalyptus, and myrrh that give it real structure. Like the rest of the Atheris collection, Akhenaten is bottled at 38% ABV. And the best part is, it's available online for delivery in most states today. Atheris Spirits, inspired by ancient heritage, foraged botanicals, and immersive flavor experiences. Head to atherisspirits.com, that's ATHERAS spirits.com, to learn more today. Great. Well, those are our non-negotiables and our Porco fun fact or fun technique of the day when it comes to
The Porco fun technique of the day.
when it comes to how to eat them. That's an inside joke, folks, but it means a lot to the show here. Ingredients in order of importance here now for us. Let's head into that. In doing so, I think we've covered most of the things when it comes to mussels, but you mentioned two of the most common breeds, types earlier. Can you remind us of what those are again?
Yeah, I think they're really the only two you're going to get on the market, other than just going out and getting some wild ones yourself. You've got Prince Edward Islands, PEIs. That's a designation of both origin and the style of the mussel, right? I don't know if they literally originated on the Prince Edward Islands, but they're just the smaller, thinner, black-shelled mussel that you see kind of everywhere. Then you've got what are called New Zealand green lips. And again, I don't even know if these are from New Zealand, but I assume they probably are. Those are the much larger ones. The edge of the shell, I'm colorblind as we know, but the edge of the shell has a green tint to it. Well, the whole shell has a greenish tint, but the edge of the shell is quite green, so they call it the green lip. Those are the much more meaty and dense. And to get those ones cooked all the way, I don't think pairs well with this preparation.
Right.
They become too sort of rubbery because they're so big that to steam them this way, it doesn't get them there. Those you can pop open and broil or grill, or you can do other things with. So I think overwhelmingly the listener is going to find PEIs when they go shopping. And then how you're going to find them in the market is going to be typically in a mesh bag so that they can breathe. You can't put them in a plastic bag, they'll suffocate. And then they're almost always 2-pound bags.
Yeah, and which you say is generally good for 2 portions.
I think it's 2 entrees or it's 4 appetizers. Mm-hmm. But also I would say, how many restaurants do we all know that offer, Tuesday night is all-you-can-eat mussels, and each portion's probably about 1 pound, and you sit there and you eat 4. Or I do, and I got this giant horn. Because I don't let them take it away till I'm done.
Of course. I'm still working on this.
Listen, I'm building something here.
Those bags, always generally bright blue.
Oh, I never noticed that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, again, it might be the colorblind.
Might be.
With good reason, though, right? And we will get into that now as well, right? Like these are, we're going to eat these things, right? So if any of that string, which you don't want to be eating yourself, somehow made its way into the mussels, you can see it immediately. Oh, yeah. That's why you get that bright, like the blue tape you get in kitchens.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I never even thought of that. But that certainly makes sense. But I don't think you're going to get that too much anyway. Those things are pretty well made at this point.
They are. They're pretty good. That does bring us on to, though, at this point, I want to talk about how we're cleaning our mussels. Because I think this is, we're front loading a lot of the work when it comes to prepping this dish. And it's basically just cleaning the mussels. So talk us through it.
Yeah, cleaning mussels is really, really easy. It's not nearly as hard as cleaning like oysters, especially Gulf Coast oysters, which just come out covered in mud. Cleaning mussels, you just want to tear open the bag, dump the mussels into a vessel that's large enough to submerge them in cold water, ice cold water. Then you're going to kind of get your hands underneath there and sort of like rough them up a little. Like this is just knocking dirt and debris, anything that might be on the outside of them off. Then just walk away and let them sit in that cold water for about 10 minutes. Here's the real technique You've heard me say it a million times, and the listener will hear me say it a million times as the show progresses. But there are no tricks, only techniques. So here's the technique that you need. Once that 10 minutes has passed, you're going to go back in and again put your hands underneath the mussels and lift them out into a separate container. Because if you just strain them out, if you just dump them over into a colander or whatever, you're just dumping all this water that is filthy back over the top of them. And you'll see, by the way, even if you just get 2 pounds, you'll see a pretty visible browning of the water and debris on the bottom. So just lift them out, and then that's good. You're good on cleaning them. Now we got to deal with the beard, right?
Yeah.
If there is one. That's the other thing. Aquaculture has come a long way, and the beards are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I'm not exactly sure what they're doing to keep that at bay, but I remember when I was a younger chef in the kitchens, and we would get them, and they would have like these pretty intense beards on there. And your fingers would be sore by the end of cleaning them because it's like strings across your finger as you pull them. But here's how you get rid of them. You want to hold the mussel in your non-dominant hand with the beard facing towards your dominant hand. You want to hold the hinge sort of facing kind of downward to the floor, and then you want to grab that beard with your thumb and finger. And if it's a small beard, if it's really little, pull straight out, sort of perpendicularly, and it'll pop right out. No big deal. If it's a little bit more aggressive, you want to pull out and down towards the hinge because the hinge will help cut the beard. Because if you pull up and away from the hinge, you will tear the muscle meat inside. Because that beard is ultimately connected to the muscle. Mm-hmm. The muscle of the muscle. Yeah. So you don't want to, if you snatch them upwards, then when you steam them open, they'll all be kind of torn and busted looking. Mm-hmm. So yeah, pretty easy though. Very easy. Takes no time.
That beard, again, I think we mentioned it earlier. Technical name for it, byssus.
Yeah.
Or BYSSUS.
The byssus
was once and historically spun into a fabric called
I knew this.
sea silk. In many, many different countries.
And you make gloves, right?
This silk is so fine and precious. Yeah, you would make a pair of gloves out of them or stockings, right? I don't know where I'm getting this reference from. I forget where I got the reference from.
I don't know where it's from, but I as soon as you started saying it, I was like, I remember this. Yeah.
So, incredibly luxurious material. Those gloves would be so fine that apparently you could fit them into a walnut shell. That's not a modern measurement we use these days. But that's,
you could fold the glove up so small, you could wad it up and fit it in a shell.
Into a walnut shell because they're so fine. One of the funny things,
right.
So the Julie and Jack episode.
I'm going to make it my mission to find a pair of these gloves.
I could only find them in museums, apparently. One of the things, and I don't know where the disconnect came from here because I couldn't find anywhere else talking about this on the internet, but of that episode of Jack and Julia where they're cooking with shellfish and this is one of the dishes that they make, or they talk about mussel preparation, Jack was saying that he had learned that in Greece, they would make gloves out of them for fishermen.
Yeah.
And they were so strong.
This is what I knew. I didn't know they were so fine. Are they fine and strong? I knew you made gloves out of them that were strong enough to like.
So you couldn't cut through them.
Yeah.
With a knife wouldn't cut through them.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. I just saw the sea silk. Maybe you can do both. I don't know. But it doesn't. There seems to be a big disconnect for me here between ultra fine silk gloves that you'll only find in a museum these days and stuff fishermen are using that are so
That's the ones I think I'm going to try and find. Because, that's what I had read, that fishermen would make them into gloves and then they would wear those gloves while, don't forget, we didn't always have rods and reels, and frankly, we still have other means, like when we're pulling in nets and things. You wear these gloves while you're doing this hard work on your hands that would protect your hands, and they were apparently really resilient, almost like chainmail. Like those gloves oyster shuckers wear. Mm-hmm. Like you can make you can make a glove out of this stuff,
which is incredibly apt. I forget how many. I forget how many. It was something like 50 pounds or something, or maybe 15 pounds to make one pair of gloves.
Yeah, these are heavy gloves.
We'll have to look into that, and not that it should ever be trusted as a source, but under the Greece entry for sea silk on Wikipedia, they don't mention fishermen's gloves, and that's what Jack was saying. But anyway, they did have a certain name for that. I'm going to move us on to our second ingredient here. I'm going to talk about this one.
Oh, yeah.
Dry white wine.
Dry white wine.
So classically, we're looking at Muscadet
Okay.
from the Loire Valley. It's one of the two great whites from, well, actually, that's a lie. People killing me here. There's many great whites from the Loire Valley, but it is one of the iconic whites made from the Melon de Bourgogne variety. And here's something about this and one of the alternatives that I would give, and this is definitely something I would drink with it, and we can talk about this later. If you encounter a bottle of Muscadet that has the words or phrase Sur Lie on the label.
Surlee, Surlee, right?
Surlie.
Oh, Lie.
2 words. That is going to signify that the white wine has spent a little bit of time aging on the lees, which are the dead yeast cells as a remnant from fermentation, the process of fermentation. I love whites that spend a bit of time on lees, right? It's that thing that you're going to get in champagne. It's going to make champagne really bready and yeasty and brioche. Toasty, but it also adds texture and weight. So you have, on the one hand, a really nice, crisp, acidic wine. You get a little bit of weight from that. So that's going to be our classic. I know you're a fan of Sauvignon Blanc for this as well.
Yeah, I picked Sauvignon Blanc, but but I didn't specifically look to see if there was a specific wine that was more traditional. But I'd also just mention that though we have non-negotiables on specifically Moules Marinière, and that certainly is going to be wine specific, this dish is also quite good with beer or with cider. Right?
Yes.
Or this preparation. I shouldn't say this dish. This dish is Moules Marinière. We're going to talk wine. But like you can steam mussels in beer. You can steam mussels in cider. You can.
Well, and I think that leans into, and I totally agree, right? That leans into which part of this sort of northern or northwestern or northern central Europe, wherever you are, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're in Normandy, you're probably leaning for apple cider, hard cider.
Sure.
Going to be delicious. If you're in Belgium, you're probably going to be looking at, like Flemish sour ales, gozes, or Saison beer as well, getting some of that really funky, bready loveliness.
Yeah.
If we want to go for the harder stuff.
I mean, let's sneak some absinthe in the game.
I was going to go so similar but different.
What do you get? Ouzo?
Arak.
All anisettes.
Yeah.
I love anisette with seafood, especially shellfish. Last year at Thanksgiving, I made oysters Rockefeller, which everybody knows, of course, is sort of a creamed spinach situation with absinthe that's then spooned on top of oysters on the half shell and topped with breadcrumbs and broiled. I was like, I want that without the shell. So I made oysters Rockefeller casserole, where I laid down the spinach, then a layer of oysters, then another layer of spinach, then breadcrumb on top, and baked the whole thing until bubbly. Crazy good, right? That's just a little side quest.
You want to be careful, I guess, with any of those like anisette, style liqueurs, just because a little goes a long way.
Oh yeah,
for
for sure.
Flavor.
Yeah. We're not doing this 1-to-1. This is not a replacement for all the wine. This is a replacement for some of the wine, or if you're using stock or whatever, or the beer. But yeah, I just wanted to mention, like again, we get oftentimes I think us nerds about food and drink, and maybe the listener gets too tied down to the specifics of any given recipe. When again, if you just zoom out a little, the whole thing is simply a template for a technique. So, again, we can just talk about the technique of steaming shellfish, and we can apply this to oysters, shrimp, clams, scallops. Let's go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I think if we are using those types of alcohol or introducing those flavors, one of the things that I have enjoyed doing and have enjoyed eating is introducing some finely diced or brunoised celery into the mix. Peeled, please, folks.
Always peel your celery.
Peel your celery. If you're not peeling your celery,
Man.
what are you even doing?
Yeah, you must not love your mom. You're just a bad person.
But yeah, I really like the sort of the savory notes that can bring into it. I have another thought about that when it comes to just sort of like kitchen sink dish or a kitchen, or a refrigerator dish. So we'll save that for the end of the show, but please remind me to bring that up if I forget. Some of the other ingredients that we're talking about here, like those are the two key ones, right? Like you have to have them. Butter, you mentioned you're going to go butter and
Yeah,
oil.
and honestly, I would choose unsalted butter. I didn't mention that,
Yes.
but we're going to get a lot of salinity coming from the liquid that's inside the mussels, so we don't need to be tinkering around with any extra salt.
Speaking of salt, I think not something we mentioned, but worth noting very briefly, those mussels, how do you know if some are going to be dead? Recognizing or,
Sure,
what's
this is
dead, what's in good condition, and ultimately, what should they be smelling like?
Yeah, sure. This is a live product. The smell, right, just in that mesh bag that you're picking up at the store or at your local fishmonger. And I talked on episodes in the past where you should have a relationship with your butcher. You should also have a relationship with your fishmonger. You should pick it up and it should smell, fresh and salty like the sea. And then and they're in that bag, and you can't open it. So there might be some in the middle that aren't doing so well, but that's just the cost of doing business. You're probably going to wind up with a couple dead. That's okay. But when you get home and you do that cleaning process that we talked about, as they come out of there, you're inspecting them. Cracked or crushed shells, which there may be one or two of those in there. Just go ahead and get rid of those out of hand. Don't even think about them. Doesn't matter. And again, the cost is so low on this, it's not a great loss. If they are beginning to open, this doesn't mean that they're dead just because they're open. This means that they are struggling to survive outside the water and they're trying to gain oxygen. All you want to do is just kind of pick it up and give it a squeeze all the way shut and let it go. It will recoil and bounce back open, but it will slowly start to close if it's still alive, right? So don't squeeze it shut and see that bounce back and think it's over. It's just it doesn't react as fast as we do. It'll start to very gently close, and it's fine. If it moves at all, it's alive. So you're in good stead.
In good stead.
Yeah, there's a lot of especially I guess it's mostly our only seafood items that we don't eat when they're dead, and mussels, crabs, lobsters are among those.
Totally.
Yeah, because they have enzymes inside them that begin to break them down immediately, and this is a post-mortem predation protection. And boy, those are fancy words, but that just means that once that animal has passed away, it degrades really quickly, so that other animals won't feed on it. And you think, why? It doesn't matter, you're dead. But if an animal feeds on, let's say, a lobster that's passed away, even within the hour, and the meat's unpalatable or mushy, or I don't think the predator cares if it's mushy, but nutritional value is lacking, then they won't attack the animals that are alive, right? So it's like this weird post-predation, post-mortem predation protection. Whew. Mouthful.
They call that the Sother Science segment.
Yeah,
right
baby.
What reminded me to bring all of that up as well was just the salt and not having salt and butter. These should smell like seawater, like the sea. They should not smell fishy.
Yeah, I've never used that seawater specifically as a term. I just say fresh and salty because, I used to live, again, I mentioned it a few times already, I lived on the water, and there are many places that you go next to the water that don't smell good. The sea does not always smell good. So we just want to be fresh. There is an aspect, and I think this is what we're really talking about when we associate this the fresh as the seawater aroma, is that there's salt in the water. That salt gets blown up into the air through evaporation and wind, and salt is sterile. So you're smelling salt, right? It's literally getting blown up into the air and swirled around. It's cleaning the air. So that's why we think seawater smells good. But seawater itself doesn't quite smell good all the time. Anyway, that's a side quest.
Avoid fishiness, I guess, is the takeaway there on that one.
Right, because it's inside the shell. There's nothing you can see. There's nothing you can you can't poke the flesh and see if it bounces back like you do with fish. You can't see its eyes because it doesn't have any. So again, we're just looking for ones that have begun to open, and if they don't respond to some agitation, then they should just be tossed out.
Next ingredient here, I'm going definitively shallots or shallots. I don't want white onion for this. And my thinking here, and I think a good general rule of thumb, right? If we're talking about quicker cooking techniques, if we're looking at a dish that is, more elegance, maybe not the right word, but more refined. If you're looking for sort of a balance of flavor here. I think that the shallots have that. They're going to be slightly sweeter. Those white onions I'm going to save for something that's going to take much longer to cook, whether it's a stock, a stew, something braised. That's my thinking on that one.
I think I agree with you, and I think I'll go back to something I said earlier and put those pieces together to come to a conclusion, and that is basically we're building a beurre blanc. Mm-hmm. I would never make a beurre blanc with onions. It's always shallots. So there we go.
Totally.
Full agree.
Garlic we're not going to get into. We'll do a separate episode on garlic one day and preparation and everything.
For our techniques episodes.
Exactly. For our premium paid subscribers exclusively.
Right.
Once a month, folks, we're going to be covering ingredients, techniques, side dishes, which we'll get into a little bit later here today. But keeping it in this feed and this episode, next one, parsley.
I know, Tim, that you're not a fan of parsley, which blows me away. As a chef, like I just love the freshness that herbs bring of all manner and variety, and parsley is kind of like the unsung king because it's ubiquitous, it's everywhere. It brings a cleanliness to dishes that I think I can't live without, and you seem to want to throw it out all the time. In this case, I would probably go with flat leaf, which is also a departure for me. I typically like the curly parsley, but I think in this dish, flat leaf, we're just gonna mince it up nice and fine. Tell us why you hate it.
Well, in a word, texture. First of all, I think you can very thoroughly clean parsley and still end up with a little bit of grit at times. Finely chopping that up, I just find it to be something of an irritant texture-wise, especially if you're garnishing at the end, right? And I did see some techniques here where some people were adding half of their parsley with the wine as you're reducing.
I'm in that camp. I'm more 3/4, let's say.
3/4 and then some fresh to finish.
And just a little bit on top to give it that pop.
But also, again, I don't know what it is about the sort of texture that's a bit of an irritant for me. But then I'm just thinking as well, like if I spent all that time making sure I've cleaned the mussels properly, right? I might have even scrubbed the outside of the shells, making sure I've properly taken them out of the water. And then I'm getting something and I'm like, is this grit or is this just the texture of parsley? I don't know. It's not a hill that I want to die on. I'm just like, what are some herbs that I might find more interesting in this dish? I don't know. Chervil?
Lavage? Tarragon?
Lavage has maybe a bit too big when it comes to elbows out or personality, maybe. Or maybe that's just my scars of... We generally, when I worked at Bistro Bruno Loubet in London, we generally always had like a lavage pesto in something. And I was just like, it's basically like celery stalk. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
right.
parsley is classic. Let's say that. Sticking in the herbs realm, I know you have some thoughts when it comes to thyme, bay leaf, and as I mentioned earlier, some folks may even go a little bit further, like our man Jacques Pepin with the herbe de Provence.
Yeah, I don't think... I think thyme has to be in this specific dish. And, I think people get upset about thyme because picking the leaves off of thyme is a tedious, time-consuming process. Oh, man. How many times are we going to make a pun about thyme? But I would remind the viewer and listener that when you're picking those leaves off of thyme, if you can hold the stem and then strip with your other hand the leaves off, then get rid of that stem. If you grab the stems and you pull to strip off and the stem keeps breaking, it is tender enough to simply chop into your thyme, right? So the ones that are easy to pull off, well, that's easy, and you get rid of the stem. And the ones that are difficult to pull off, don't. So that solves that's going to save you some time.
Speaking, there's another time fun.
And then I don't know if you mentioned or if I wasn't listening. I do like to put a bay leaf in.
Yes,
you're in the bay leaf camp.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
That's someone else who doesn't like bay leaf that you know.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I keep thinking it's you. I thought it was parsley and bay leaves that you don't like because I hear so many people argue against bay leaves, and I'm going to tell you, it's hard to pin down what they are doing when you're making a stock or something like that. But it's one of those things that you shouldn't notice until it's missing. The only way you should notice it is if it isn't there. And I have a great example of that from a friend of ours right here in Brooklyn, a chef who owns a place that we love called Gus's, and Chef Chris McDade. And he was making for a while, or he makes from time to time, a bay leaf creme brulee for dessert. Now, when you taste the stock and you say, I don't know what that bay leaf did, it brought some it brought some earthiness and some like herbal oil quality to the overall stock or even sauce, like if you're making a beurre blanc, etc. But when he made this dish, this dessert, it was an instant way to go, try one bite of this and tell me bay leaf does nothing. It is so good. And it just lets you know. And again, if it wasn't there, you just have a custard of cream and sugar and eggs, right? So it definitely is bringing something. It's just hard to put your finger on.
I have a theory.
It's like eucalyptus almost.
Totally. And
which
we
is
were
like
talking
strangely
about this.
oily, but also herbal, but also hard to put your finger on.
Je ne sais quoi about it, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My theory when it comes to bay leaf, and this is based on a recent event, actually. I had to ask permission from my wife, Gabriella, for me to be allowed to get rid of like a tub of bay leaves that I had, right? Because I had gotten, you know how in the supermarket when you're buying herbs and spices and stuff like that, like generally they come in those cylindrical jars and there's not a ton in there. It depends what it is, right? And then sometimes you can get those cheaper ones. I think I may have even, sorry to say this, gotten this tub of bay leaves from a dollar store years ago.
So they were probably pretty good when you got them.
When I got them, they were great, right? But I bought too many. And let's be honest, if you're a home cook, how often are you cooking per week? And how many of those dishes...
I have a solve. I know where you're going.
I'm saying how many of those dishes include bay leaf? So all I'm saying is, for those folks who might think bay leaf isn't bringing much, it might be because their bay leaves are so old because they haven't gotten through them.
Absolutely tracks.
So that's why I asked Gabriella, can I chuck these out? Because I'm like, I need to use bay leaves and these are not fresh and they're not doing anything and I'm never going to get through them. So I got a much smaller jar.
Yeah, I would say do that. Buy in quantities that you can go through quick enough. Here's another great solve for you, though. A lot of markets now, even online markets, sell fresh bay leaves, not dried, that arrive to you frozen. So get yourself a stack of like 25 bay leaves at a time and put them in the freezer.
Yeah. Right there next to your lime leaves.
Or keep them in the freezer. Yeah, just like lime leaves that come frozen as well. And this because they aren't dried out yet, this flash freezing process captures all those oils that are in there, and that's what you need anyway. And then you just use them in this fresh frozen state instead of the typical dried state.
Mm-hmm. Final thought on herbs.
But I would also say, I'm sad that you threw those away, even though they weren't probably as potent as they could be. I'm sure you have a spice grinder or a coffee grinder that you dual purpose. You could have ground them into a powder and then used them in like filet for gumbo, or you could have used them for, you could make it honestly just a simple tea. You could add them to teas that you're already drinking, both hot and cold. Like, I love bay leaves.
Sother, I think these were 6 years old.
One more year, the 7-year itch.
I'm going to throw a little...
It's longer than you've known me.
Exactly. Should have handed them over to you.
Okay, those can go. But listen, I'm trying to edify the listener.
No, I like it. It's good. Jacques had herbe de Provence. I think stuff like oregano or oregano, however you want to pronounce it, would be great in this. My final little one, lemon thyme.
Okay, thyme is in the mix here already. Seafood and lemon, fast friends. Yeah, this makes sense. Mm-hmm. I'll allow it.
Maybe some zest to finish it as well.
Not that I'm the judge, but that makes sense to me.
And finally,
that's why I said tarragon earlier. Like tarragon, again, hinting back towards that anisette and seafood thing that I love. Also, I would say this too. And this is actually a great point to bring up, and I'm glad we're stumbling across it. It's a quick one for the listener as well. Listen, I know you have to buy herbs in this what seem like super large quantities for what you want to do at home. My answer to that is use more than it asks for in the recipe. A. Or B, use whatever herbs you have all the time. Like almost no dish comes out of my kitchen without getting a hit of herb at the end. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter. It's just whatever herbs I have, So just use them.
they're only going to add another dimension to any dish. It might not always be good, but they're only
Right,
going
there's
to.
some ones that stick out, right? You can't just throw cilantro and everything, but like you can kind of get away with like, oh, you got a little basil, a little tarragon, and some parsley. Chop it up and throw it on top of whatever it is you're making. It's going to make your sauce look beautiful. It's going to bring an aromatic pop. It's going to bring some flavor notes to the thing, and it's just going to make you feel better because you're like, oh, I didn't just buy this large clump of something that I used for one recipe, and I feel like I feel bad because I threw it away. You know, like we all go through that. I hate it. I hate it. You know, my a big chunk of my career when I was in kitchen, I worked as the head of garde manger. Which meant that it was my responsibility to kind of oversee what went in the garbage. And I'm not kidding. Like in the kitchen, my station would be the place where every other station would have to come over before they threw whatever they thought was garbage away, and I would pick through it and save what could be saved and do stuff with it. And that was just part of my job. Chispa.
For the folks not watching on YouTube and for those just listening on the podcast traditional here, a dog has joined us in the studio and is sitting on my lap. That is a great...
That's a dog?
It's a great reminder, though, for everyone. These episodes are also available on YouTube. Tend to be more uncut, you know? So if you want to see what's going on inside the Sauced HQ, the Coaster Studios here, join us over there on YouTube. And give us a follow, give us a subscribe.
And say hi to Chispa, who's licking the microphone right now. Oh. What does that little dog weigh?
I don't know how many pounds.
You think it's more than one? It's the smallest dog ever.
Well, Chispa arrived at just the right time now, folks, though, for us to remind us that is the end of our ingredients section. We're going to take another quick break here now. I'm going to take this dog back upstairs, and then we are going to get into Sother, the preparation of the dish.
And service.
Today's preparation is brought to you by Underberg. Herbs, bitterness, balance. Like any great dish. Like Underberg. All right, that's us back. We are here. Time to talk through prep. We're dog-free in the studio right now.
You got rid of Chispa.
Sorry, Chispa. Sother, I'm going to kick it off. We're going to start with that butter. Optional butter and oil to begin with. You know, the oil is going to deal better with heat, as Jacques notes as well. You know, a good olive oil is also going to be healthier than butter. No?
I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying I don't know that I'm thinking about health when I'm eating a buttery sauce in the first place. You know what I mean? Because you can't, even if you start this with oil, you're still going to finish it with butter. Like, so you're still getting butter in there. Do you want to save those calories, or do you want to just say, like, I'm willing to spend those calories?
Commit to the bit.
Because I think that's a crazy thing, right? We always talk about saving calories, but like, there's also a place to spend them. So this is maybe a place to spend some calories.
I'm going to add my finely minced or finely diced brunoise shallots in there. Cook those around for around 1 minute. We don't want any color on these. We just want to get them sweated, translucent. I'm going to add the garlic at that point. I'm going to, again, continue cooking for about 30 seconds till you get that real nice pop of aroma of garlic. And we're both doing the same thing here. It's kind of like...
This is the aroma gesture.
Blowing it into our faces. At that point as well, I'm going to add our bay leaf, our thyme, and any other of those herbs, those sort of woodier herbs that you want to use rather than fresh. And I'm going to add a big old glug of wine to the pot, and then I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay, cool. I think for me, it's speaking of the big old glug of wine. I know I talk about knobs of butter and pours of cream or whatever, but for the wine, just to give like a ratio, because people love to have things spelled out for them. I think we're looking at like roughly 4 ounces, half a cup per pound of mussels.
Nice.
But I think that also scales wonky once you get past like 5 pounds, but who's cooking that at home? You don't still need 4 ounces once we're up to the 5
size is your pot?
Well, I mean, I got big pots, and I do not lie. So anyway, half a cup of the wine. Is that where we were? And then, so now once that's bubbling away again, now we're going to go in with the mussels.
How much are you reducing that by? By about a half?
Oh, right. Sorry. Yes, let's reduce it down. Not quite even a half, I don't think. I'm not looking to make like a syrup at this point because I want enough liquid to be in the pot to create enough steam to get the mussels to start opening, which then they'll release their liquid, which will then add to the liquid. Like this whole process sort of eats itself. Okay, so we're going to reduce by about a third maybe. And then we're going to lower the mussels in there, kind of use a big wooden spoon or something to kind of toss them around to get them a little bit coated, and then the lid goes on. And this process from this point is going to go pretty quickly. We're looking at maybe we're looking at maybe 3 minutes or so until our mussels are going to begin to open. And then here's the trick, right? Once a mussel is open doesn't mean it's finished. And I think this is a failing that people have all the time. You see the shell starting to open and you think, oh, I'm done. Not quite. If you take a look at one of those ones that's begun to open, you'll see that the meat of the mussel itself is connected to kind of both sides, and it's being spread open by its own shell. This is the mussel desperately trying to not be dead. He's trying to hold it together, but he's being spread apart. Mini crucifixion of the mussel. We got maybe another minute or two to go from that point. And then the mussel will release from one side or the other, and then that's when the mussel is just like this little plump ball that's attached to one side of the inner of the shell and not the other. That's when you're fully cooked. Here's where it starts to get a little technique-y again. What you're going to do at this point then is using like a slotted spoon or a spider, you're going to lift the mussels out into your service dish. At that point, then, you can take that sauce down a little more if you want to. Taste it at this point. See if it's seasoned well enough. A couple of good cracks of pepper. Maybe you need some salt. Maybe you need to add a little water to bring the salt down if the mussels are particularly salty. And then mount with that butter. And then pour that butter over the top of the mussels back in that bowl. And that's when you hit it with that last flourish of herbs.
Brings me to a point that I was thinking about when you were explaining your wonderful pinching technique when it comes to eating this.
My little pincers, yes.
One of the things that is really enjoyable and notable about it is like when you do have, so you might have pinched that mussel out and you're eating it, but you do have a little sort of cup of broth there, which is really nice, right? Because, well, let's talk about that now, right? Like, how would you serve this? What are you typically serving the dish with in order to get the most out of it, right? Because if you have a bunch of sort of shells in a bowl at the beginning, you might have a spoon to have that broth, but you're sort of fishing around in there.
Yeah. I think there's really just the two choices of what to serve with this dish. It's either some crusty bread or some fries. And my choice is
both.
Although I will say that I'm not as big a fan of the stick, standard Frenched fry shape for the fries. I would prefer them to be the more sort of British roasted potato, which is effectively a fry, right? Maybe even tossed in some more of the same herbs that are going in here, just so it's something I can kind of like fork or maybe even plunge right into the sauce, either as a dip or just throw some in the bowl and then they're getting soaked as they go. And as far as the bread goes, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm probably going to take one of the staples in my kitchen and every kitchen I've ever worked in as well, confit of garlic, and I'm going to smear it on some toasty bread. And earlier when I talked about the service of the mussels, I'm going to put that toasty bread in the bottom of the bowl before I lift those oysters on, before reducing the sauce and finishing it and pouring it over the top. That piece of bread is then my reward for finishing all those mussels, right?
Yes.
I'm not going to even try to get to it till I've whittled away at all those shells. So that's how I would serve this dish. And my mouth is literally watering even talking about it.
And we hinted at it before, but of course, if you're serving it with fries, it is that classic Belgian national dish, moules frites. And also, do they not stake a claim? I think you hinted at this earlier. Do the Belgians stake a claim to have invented French fries?
I think they do. Yeah. The frite is a Belgian invention, and it only became named Frenched, I think, because of the culinary term of Frenching, to cut in a bâtonnet style of that size. That is a Frenched fry. That was my hint, right, when I said Frenched fries. As I say, iced cream, iced tea.
Oh, no, we're not getting into this, are we?
Yeah, it's pedantic. Listen, we made a podcast because we're pedantic.
But what was the
Banana Fosters?
Bananas Foster. Something for another day, folks. Let's not even get into that.
Listen, that's cooking with booze. We'll get there.
That's a dish we'll get into in another extremely pedantic discussion. Great point, though, to remind the listeners and the viewers there on YouTube, if they're watching us there, that Sother, if folks want the full recipe. You gave some very helpful ratios there, but if folks want quantities and stuff, we're never going to get into that in sauce when we're going through it, right? It's too much of a detour.
Yeah.
But if you sign up to be a paid subscriber of the show,
Yeah.
every month, not only are you going to get those bonus episodes that we mentioned earlier, you're going to get a digital recipe card for every dish and drink
That's right.
that we cover on this show, the recipes that we have for you. You're going to get 4 of those every month, plus the bonus episodes. And that's a great deal. It's basically the price there. It's about a cup of coffee these days.
Yeah.
$7 a month. Join us over there in the among the premium subscribers. And for those who are subscribers already, thank you very much. You know, we're an independent podcast. We really appreciate the support.
Plus, you get to hang out with us and be a part of a community and like talk with like-minded people, including us. Get our feedback on things. Get the feedback of the group. Like it's going to be a great community.
It's a great community, yeah, and you're going to get early access to live events because, you know, we want to get Sauced together in person, and you're going to be the first to hear about that if you are a paid subscriber. We're going to take one final break right now, and then we're going to talk about another type of side, the thing that's in the glass.
That's right.
The pairing.
It's time to get to the sauced part of sauced.
Let's get sauced. We'll be right back. Thanks to Underberg for presenting today's preparation, the tiny bottle that saves big dinners. Head to the show notes to learn more about Underberg today. All right, it's time to really get sauced right now. It's time to talk about booze because, you know, this is a show about cooking with booze and drinking with food.
That's right.
I'm gonna act as our sommelier here today, as I often do and as I like to do. I'm gonna
Listen,
leave it
I'm
open
learning a
for
lot
us.
from you. I really am. Like I have a better than a base knowledge about wine. I really do. It's just not something that I am typically drawn to first. I have made my bones in the cocktail world, so I think of spirituous alcohol and cocktails first.
And, you know, I think those are always something as well. I think we're both big proponents of having a cocktail. Maybe it's with the food. Maybe it's after. Maybe it's while you're cooking. Maybe not for this one because, you know, it's quite a fast process as we mentioned. And we are going to give you a custom cocktail recipe as we do every episode. Before we do, though, that wine.
Yeah.
I want to come back to Muscadet for a second. I mentioned it was from the Loire
Melon
Valley.
de Bourgogne.
Exactly. Canonical pairing for me, right? And the Loire, in case my geography is wrong, it probably is, but northwestern France as well, getting close to like Brest, where, you know, this is, you know, it stakes a claim to the origins of this dish. Dry, light-bodied, crisp acidity, citrus. Primary fruits are going to be citrus, green apple, that kind of thing. It's going to cut through maybe that rich sauce that you have. It's going to pair perfectly with the fish.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier as well, this isn't critical for cooking, but for drinking, I do love those ones that are called, you know, the Sur Lie that spent some time on lees. This brings me to an alternative that I really like with this. And we're sticking on a northwestern coast, but we're going to Spain. We're going to have some Albarino. We're heading to Galicia. You will never hear me saying Galicia with it's not my kind. I don't love the Spanish accent.
Galicia?
I'm more of an Argentine Spanish when it comes to accents. But Albarino, you will get some, and they're incredibly well priced. Albarinos that have spent some time on lees as well. I think for both of those varieties and wines, not only does it give you that added texture, it's also going to add some ageability to the wine. And this is something we don't drink too often or we don't look for too often, especially if you're outside of Burgundy or Champagne. An aged white wine is a thing of beauty.
Yeah, you're right. You don't see them often enough, and I think that little bit of like time in barrel is going to bring out more of that toasty bready note. Which again, if you're serving this dish with some toasted bread in that rich sauce, then this wine also has the acidity to cut through. Like it seems like you're just hitting on all cylinders all of a sudden.
You mentioned Puy Fumé earlier, or Puy Fils. 2 different wines.
Puy Fils, yes. Puy Fils. I don't know how to pronounce it. My French is terrible. That's okay. So is my English.
Well, if we wanted to stick in the Loire Valley,
I'm no lingual.
Sauvignon Blanc.
Sure, which is what I would have reached for to cook the thing in the first place until you corrected me.
Pouilly Fumé you're going to have for that one, right? And the fumé is, I forget the specific soil and rock type that you have there for some of the best for some of the best Sauvignon Blancs, but you get this sort of flinty, almost smoky note from a Pouilly Fumé, hence the fumé.
Fumé means smoke.
And Sancerre as well, classic, right? Sauvignon Blanc.
Sancerre. Give me a Sancerre.
Which is so funny that some folks claim these days to hate Sauvignon Blanc, I think because of the overly sort of grassy green. There's no way to say anything else other than, there's no way around calling it out, sort of feline urine notes of New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. But folks who still like Sancerre, so I don't know. It's kind of fun.
Who among us has tasted the cat pee?
I think it's more of a smell.
Listen, you're going to commit to the bit, buddy. We're going to taste the cat pee.
Some final recommendations from me. Picpoul de Pinet from the Languedoc, citrusy, mineral. Generally really cheap and young and fresh and delicious. If you have an Aldi, that might be more of a UK thing, but the Aldi wine, you'll pick up a bottle for a couple of quid. Beautiful with this. It's kind of like the white equivalent of Provence Rosé, just refreshing and acidity.
Okay.
And I think that
sounds delightful.
Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to get into when it comes to wines.
I think because you kind of have to you have to edit yourself. At some point you have to stop, because I think that we can justify kind of any white wine going with this dish, because it is a white wine and butter sauce, right?
True, yeah. I mean, a Gewürztraminer might be going a bit too far. A Viognier, maybe not enough acidity. But you're right.
Auslesen.
Well, I think Riesling would be great again. No, that actually would be remiss of me not to mention a cheap but lovely, delightful, fresh Vinho Verde from Portugal.
Okay.
Going to be amazing with this dish again. Again, we're talking about coastal wines and seafood.
Every time.
Goes together, grows together, everything. Fantastic. Sother.
Yes.
Beer before we get into cocktails.
Oh, okay.
As a pairing. We mentioned cider earlier, but beer.
Yeah, I think, we're definitely looking at lighter, brighter, easier drinking Pilsners. We may be reaching for maybe like a Belgian ale or a Goza, which is going to bring some of that citrusy note that we love that goes with seafood. And then not beer, but in the same vein, I think cider.
Nice.
Let's have a nice dry cider, not the fruity ones we think about here in America, but the more dry sort of Spanish style ciders.
Oh, I love those as well. And again, you pour them from the Perron style thing, or the way you pour them like that, you get a bit of effervescence in there, ever so slightly pétillant.
Yeah, and then I was going to actually pitch a wine for this dish, which is unusual, and I was waiting to see if you'd say it, and you didn't. So then I think maybe it's not a good one, or you just overlooked it. Let's have a Cremant.
Oh yeah,
let's have something that's bubbly and effervescent, and does have a little bit of that bready quality as well. For the listener who isn't aware, Cremant is made from the same grapes that Champagne is made from, but simply outside the Champagne region, and literally sometimes on the border. Like it literally is just across an imaginary line in the same field. So you can often get Cremant at a very reasonable price. And again, I know I've harped on it throughout this episode, but this is such an incredibly inexpensive dish to create, and it's so it's not elevated; it's simply refined. It's a very good dish that I think could deserve and stand up to a nice Cremant.
Delicious.
I was drinking a lot of Cremant throughout the holiday season and New Year's because I really like them. And again, I don't drink a ton of wine, so it's kind of one that I gravitate towards. But let's talk cocktails.
Yeah, tell me, because I know you've come up with a custom cocktail. You've come up with our custom cocktail for this dish.
Yeah,
it's great.
There's no cocktail pairing that's out there that is associated with this dish, and that's not going to be uncommon throughout this whole entire exercise on sauced. Cocktails and food, spirituous alcohol and food are hard to pair together. But so I thought to myself, the nature of the dish itself lends itself to fruity spirits. So I thought Calvados.
Ooh.
Right? So let's drink some Calvados, which is, apple brandy. But
sometimes apple and pear.
And sometimes both, yes. But let's make a cocktail. So I thought, well, we're in France again. We're going to have some Suze, which is a quintessentially French aperitif, bitter liqueur, which was founded the same year as the Eiffel Tower was built. So that makes it even super Frenchy.
Mm-hmm. I love the branding. I love everything when it comes to the bottle, the font, everything. Great people as well.
Yeah, 100%. And then we'll grab a bottle of Cocchi Americano, which is an Italian aperitif wine. It's basically a vermouth. And we'll make a white Negroni out of this, right? So aptly Calvados, the Suze has a sharply grassy and bitter grapefruit peel quality that Cocchi Americano is going to stand in and be the sort of like softening agent, but it also is quite fruity. It's made of grapes, so there's wine in the dish. This all kind of makes sense to me. And then I would put just a simple lemon twist over the top of it, which is going to bring that pop of lemon aroma and some oiliness that'll sit on top of the glass and on top of the cocktail throughout the sipping. I think the ratio here is pretty simple. It's two parts to one part to one part, so 2 parts Calvados to 1 part each of the Suze and the Cocchi Americano, stirred, served over fresh ice, and then with that lemon twist to give it that poppy, bright aroma. Of course, we associate lemon with seafood all the time, and that's gonna tie them together as well.
Delicious. If I'm slightly averse to bitter flavors, I'm keeping the Suze in there as a non-negotiable. Might I be able to swap out the Cocchi Americano for Lillet Blanc?
Oh, 100%. These two are really close cousins already, and that would stay in the French vein.
Yeah,
I should have thought of that.
That's what I was thinking as well. You know, why are we allowing Italy into this? We've already got friends in Belgium.
Yeah, all right. So let's modify. We'll give both recipes, but we'll just sub that one thing. Yeah, that's a great point.
What are you calling this drink?
This is what happens when when we surprise each other with our information. Then we end up contradicting each other on air. That's good. I didn't name this thing. Here's the thing. We'll figure out a name for it to put in the rest.
I've got some candidates from the show so far. I was just thinking about that.
Okay, but I will just at least say what I was about to say, which is I don't always name every cocktail, and the way that I explain that to people is sometimes a sandwich is just a sandwich. They can't all be Reubens, Like sometimes it's just a thing I put together that's delicious, and it lives here and it lives now, and then it's gone, and we move on. But okay, what are your candidates? I'm ready to listen. And either way, for all the cocktails that we produce for the show, I will create a name, but I agonize over it. Our good friend Jim Meehan said in his book, The Bartender's Manual, a cocktail's name is its only marketing campaign. And he furthered by saying, and I'm probably butchering the quote here, but he furthered by saying, there are plenty of great cocktails that you've never heard of because they had a bad name and so they disappeared. And there are just as many, if not more, terrible cocktails that still exist because they have a great name.
Or memorable, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if Sex on the Beach is a great name.
Memorable.
But it's memorable for sure.
Yeah.
Then I don't know if this fits in the category, but I was thinking the Bouchot.
Oh, because of the fence posts?
Yeah.
The roped fence underwater to catch birds. I'm not clear if this guy was.
It wasn't underwater. I believe it was said.
Well, then how did the mussels grow on it?
The tide. I don't know. Other than that, what did I have? I had here the Patrick Walton Special.
That's a long name for a white Negroni.
But
of these two so far, the first one's winning.
The Bouchot. Here's why I think the Patrick Walton Special might be a good name for it as a bartender, right? You like those points where you get to talk to guests, where you get to hand sell stuff.
100%.
Who was Patrick Walton?
Right, we got to talk. Yeah,
you got the whole backstory there, and then
I think all over the world, people would be curious. But I think here in America, they'd all be like, "Is this one of the Waltons from Walmart? Isn't that the Walton family?"
Exactly there. So, I don't know. All good names. And you know what, folks? Reach out to us. Hit us up.
The Bouchot Crisp. Ooh. I don't know why I like crisp in there. Anyway, it's delicious. Delicious cocktail. And I think it would go fantastic with this dish.
Sounds great. Final part of the show for us here today.
Mm-hmm.
A question we like to ask to round out everything.
Mm-hmm.
What is someone missing out on if they never make this dish, even if it's just once in their life?
Wow. I kind of forgot that this was one of the questions that we wind up with. I think that what you're missing out on is just the ability to connect the dots between the fact that the base of this dish is also a sauce, beurre blanc, and how in the culinary world, we're constantly just building on separate techniques that come together to make different dishes every time. There's an old sort of joke out there that's like, Mexican food is just 6 ingredients with 1,000 dishes because they're just manipulated in different ways, right? You got rice, beans, corn, cilantro, and an avocado, and you're good to go. You can make 1,000 dishes. I think that's true of all cuisines. I think that's just an easy one that people can kind of see and understand. But I think that you're just missing out on stretching your culinary muscles, and in this case, not even working them out too hard. Just staying limber. In the culinary exercise, this is something to stay limber.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think you can, there are plenty of things you can do beyond this dish. Like there's going to be 2 of us, and we said about a pound each. Well, let's make double that, and then when we get to the end, let's pop the mussels out of the shell and chop up some roasted peppers and some olives and coat those with a little bit of olive oil and put on some vinegar, and then we have these marinated pickly mussels that we can eat for a picnic tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pop all the remaining mussels out of the shell and literally puree them into some cream and creme fraiche and rice and make like a mulligatawny style soup. I think that we get too caught up often in the culinary world of just making tonight's dinner or this dish. We can see beyond this dish to what we can make from its remains. It's like the planned leftover, but not the leftover casserole. Do you know what that is? That's a side quest. The leftover casserole was when you were a kid, and once a week you had a casserole that had 6 layers because it was the leftovers from every meal the whole week long, and you knew you were in trouble when this week's leftover casserole, one of the layers is last week's leftover casserole.
It's a Solera.
It's the Solera casserole.
Oh, fantastic.
Now, I'm not going to let you off the hook here. You told me to remind you. You said you had a kitchen sink.
That's exactly what I was about to say now.
Okay, great. I don't know what you meant when you said kitchen sink.
Well, everything but the kitchen sink, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or so I look into my fridge. And I think this is a great repository for stuff I might have hanging around, right? I mentioned celery earlier because, again, it's one of those ingredients that you buy, and generally you're not going to use all of it for whatever the dish is.
Right. They sell you a whole head of celery, and you need 2 stems.
You need to, exactly. So I think celery is great in this, but just, again, reminder, folks, please be peeling your celery.
Peel it.
I think you might have half a leftover sort of fennel bulb in the fridge or something, or those fennel fronds, those tops, those fennel leaves are going to be great.
You got a leek hanging around in there somewhere.
Going to be fantastic. Anything that might go in a white mirepoix or, for a base of a fish stock, going to be fantastic. And those herbs, like you said, or I can't believe I'm saying herbs. It's those herbs, like you said, anything in there.
We've Americanized poor Tim.
I will stick to oregano. So yeah, I just think it's great for that, right? And you can use up whatever's in there, maybe that whatever leftover wine you have as well and stuff.
Yeah. There's such a thing as leftover wine.
Not in this house. But my final thought for the day, or the thing that I think first comes to mind when making this dish, and I did hint at it at the top of the show as well, the joy of the clacking of the mussels as you're cooking
there's
them.
An auditory quality.
Yeah. And it's one of the things that's so often underestimated when it comes to cooking, the sound of cooking. We'll get into this in a different episode more, but like how it's not just about what you're seeing, because in a professional kitchen, you have 5 or 6 pans on the go during prep, anything. Sure. You know what the sound of an onion burning is like.
It's a different sound.
Or your risotto, right? You put your risotto rice in with your onions. It's in oil, but you haven't added any liquid yet, your wine. You can hear when it's ready.
Yeah, the rissolet.
Exactly. So I think just the pure beauty of the sound of the clacking of Moules Marinière, for me, it's fantastic. Yeah. And that is what you're missing out on. And it's a great shame.
Yeah. This is a great dish. We're going to be posting some content of when we're making the stuff, of us making the stuff, and drinking and having a great time. I think it's another, and I think many of the dishes that we talk about on the show are gonna fall into this category. So I hope to not repeat myself too much, but like, it's another gather round dish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like we're not making this, even though it's quite simple. I don't think I'm making this for myself.
No.
I'm making it for someone or someone's.
Yeah.
Right. We're gonna make this as a celebratory kind of a party. Like I've got that big grill in my backyard. Backyard. It's New York. It's not really that big a deal. But I do have a big grill back there. It takes up most of the space. I could put a hotel pan down in there and do this whole thing in a hotel pan, and we could make 10 to 15 pounds of mussels at one time and just have people walk up and pick at them and drink wine and beer and celebrate and drink this.
Kind of like gumbo or like a seafood broil.
Yeah.
Just having that out there and just lay it all out. Yeah, no, I love it.
Yeah. And maybe we'll invite you to my backyard because we're planning on doing these things, right?
We are absolutely planning on doing these in-person sourced events.
We're going to have events in both my backyard and Tim's backyard. We'd love to have you come, but they're limited only to the paid subscribers.
There we go.
We got to support the show, guys.
In the meantime,
yeah,
Tyler, time to put on the apron,
pull out the shaker,
and get cooking
and drinking.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Sourced is recorded and produced by The Coaster, an independent podcast network based in Brooklyn, New York. Huge thanks to Charlotte Ager for designing our show logo, as well as the beautiful illustrations on our digital recipe cards. And thank you to George Miata for composing our awesome theme music, Bouchot. Big thanks as well to all of our partners on today's episode. Please head to the show notes to check them out. We truly couldn't make this show without their support. And speaking of support, thank you to our premium subscribers, especially our founding tier backers from Kickstarter. And finally, thanks to you, listener, for joining us on this journey. Until next time, let's get sauced.